Who disrupts my coronation?
Everyone has been destroyed because of this freak. I won't allow it! These babies just saved this lame fest party!
Hello. It is time for another This Week in Geek flagship show. Running solo yet again. Birdman thinks, depending on how things go, he'll probably return to regular duties beginning of July. He's got another surgery scheduled to get something looked at that, it's nothing major, but it's something he needs to have done, and he thinks he's going to be recovering after that, and he's slowly but surely, ever so slowly, starting to feel a little better from the pinched nerve that he had after his gallbladder surgery, which, any bit of relief is good relief from that, as you've probably seen on social media. He's like, the combination of the nerve blocker that he's been given and the medical marijuana he's had has really helped him as far as the significant pain and recovery time he's had to go through. He's had a rough go since like January. He's had a rough go for a while, but he's told me that he wants to get back to doing podcasting, and that one of the things that upsets him most and is frustrating most is that this is the longest gap he's ever been away from podcasting ever since he started the site up and started doing all the radio shows and everything in 2007. So he's like, this is, and I didn't dawn on me, but he goes, I wasn't out this long when I had my amputation, and I went, you're right. It's been too much for him to go through. He's just like, I need a break. I'm like, yeah, of course, especially if you're in so much pain that you can't sit straight for a while. It's not fun. So I said, I'll keep doing this solo for as long as you need it to be, man. He did want to say that he had a review. So he has a review of Judas and the Black Messiah. That'll be in our second review slot for the week. So, the one in between the news, which, is always nice. He wants to, slowly work his way back in. He also helped curate all of the news and the weird news to talk about, which is great as well. My reviews here are just so happen to be two different Warhammer games in two different genres completely from Focus Home Interactive. I have Warhammer Age of Sigmar Stormground. We'll put that in first. And we also have Necromunda Hired Gun. So didn't plan on both of them being in the same show, but it's just sort of timing-wise made sense. So, two Warhammer games. One is an FPS. One is a tactical RPG / roguelite. And we've got a movie review here from Birdman as well. This week upcoming is the big gaming E3 Summer Games Fest extravaganza palooza 9,501 craziness jumbo hot dog game fests. But we will be having a lot, pretty much one a day as the conferences come up, maybe more. Shorter podcasts that are recaps and initial thoughts on each one, each of the showcases, and then we'll have a recap that has a roundtable discussion of it. We're going to get at least another host, maybe two or three. We'll try to gather some friends together and talk. Birdman's hoping he can be a part of that. And I told him, you don't have, if it's going to be like a 2-hour discussion and you can't go through that, if you want to be on for 10 minutes, you can be on for 10 minutes. I'll host it. You just drop in, you drop out. No harm, no foul. Say hi, do your piece, say your initial thoughts, and then we can, gather and go into the rest of it. So we'll see how that goes. Probably the following weekend after all of the showcases are done. There's still going to be more in the middle of summer, and we'll do prototypes on that as they come. But in the meantime, it is going to be a busy week podcasting wise, because I'll be recording the main show. I'll be recording a couple, at least one loose cannon. I'll be recording 5 or 6, maybe more prototypes in the span of a week. So it's going to be a fun, interesting week. It's always great when it comes time to E3. Last year was interesting, where we had to spread everything out, and I had to watch a ridiculous amount of stuff. At least last year I was able to collaborate with Mike on it. But this year we're going to have some other voices maybe pop on. We'll see how it goes. So I guess without further ado, we may as well get into the first review. So we're going to start, as I said earlier, with Warhammer Age of Sigmar Stormground, and then we'll be back with the geek news for the week.
Basically using geeks.
Leave me alone, geek boy.
Holy shit, you geeks are badass.
It's time for a quick review of Warhammer Age of Sigmar Stormground. Bit of a mouthful for a title, but it's the newest Warhammer game from Focus Home Interactive. They sent over a review copy for us to check out, and I had the privilege of checking it out on the Xbox One platform. I was playing it on the Xbox Series X, so there may be some improvements to stability or performance that you might not see on the baseline Xbox One. So your mileage may vary, but it played rather solidly. Seemed like it was a locked frame rate, no stuttering, decent load times. I would say that loading, I was a little surprised at loading speeds, in that it wasn't like, blink instant, but again, this is playing obviously in some format of backwards compatibility mode, not really taking advantage of what the next gen hardware can do. That being said, I might have just been spoiled because of how incredibly fast newer games are, but because it only took a couple seconds to load any given time. Now, I am not overly familiar with the Warhammer franchise. I just know that there is a ton of lore and different editions and worlds and games and franchises, and we've had a few for review in the past, none of which were very versed in. It is a world that I think we want to get a little more involved in. I know that Birdman in the past, I think it was was it 2019? Maybe even 2020. I think he reviewed some of the fantasy tabletop role-playing versions. We know that Warhammer is obviously based on the miniatures war games, and this game plays out a little more like that, in that it is a turn-based strategy RPG. Your grid-based, where you're moving them along on like a hex grid. But this has one of those roguelike elements to it, where as you're completing levels, you start out with a hero, and you can unlock these different cards that will give you either power-ups or extra troops that you can call into battle. You use them to interact with things like destroying, summoning areas, killing other enemies. And if you die on a mission, like your mission there's a mission that is broken up into smaller levels and things you have to do progressively to beat that mission. If you die at any point during the mission, you'll be reset back to the beginning of the mission, like a roguelike, but you'll be able to keep anything you've unlocked since. So extra troops that you didn't have earlier on, making that second playthrough faster and also earning you more experience as you go along. So it has that roguelike element, but applied to a tactical RPG like like a strategy RPG that I've not encountered before. It's probably been done, but I personally hadn't seen this, and this was pretty well implemented here. Visually, it's pretty good. I was playing it on a 50-inch TV mounted on the wall in my bedroom, sort of far away, in that it was far enough that I was worried at first that I wasn't going to be able to understand what was going on, because with tactical games, you end up with small, sprites. No, it was actually really easy to follow. The color scheme is easy to follow. It's visually pretty impressive for the type of game that it is. The controls are pretty intuitive. There's enough of a tutorial involved that you can get into it pretty well. I think this is a good jumping in point for people that maybe don't know the franchise as well as the superfans out there. It is steeped in pretty deep lore that is interesting and seems welcoming enough. It's not like it's going to be overly obtuse. The difficulty is pretty high, but again, that's the style of game it is, you'll end up repeating yourself a few times before you complete a mission. That being said, I never felt frustrated or angry with it like I sometimes get when I play these roguelike games. It's just a pretty well put together game. It's available on PS4, Xbox One, PC, and Switch. This is developed by a development studio called Gasket Games, and Focus Home Interactive has published it, and it's a pretty well put together turn-based strategy game. It's not going to set the world on fire. Like, this is not your AAA, like, oh my god, it's going to be the huge thing. It's just a solid game that if you're fans of the franchise, you're going to like, and if you're fans of strategy RPGs, you're probably going to like as well.
The Prime Minister of Sweden visited Washington today, and my tiny little nipples went to France.
Gossip, rumors, panic in the streets. We're lucky.
This Week in Geek
News.
It's time for the Geek News. What do we have here? Well, there's 3 stories. One of them Birdman and I grabbed at the same time, but I'll give him credit because I think he was a little quicker than I was. They are all, in this case, interestingly enough, movie related. We have Super Mario Brothers movie restoration adds 20 minutes of deleted scenes and a couple more after this. So we'll start with this one first, and that is from Kotaku. It says here, for years now, Super Mario Brothers, the movie archive, has been working to obtain and restore a bunch of deleted scenes from Nintendo's 1993 disaster. You can call it a disaster. I can call it one of my favorite movies growing up. The work is largely now done, leaving us with a sort of director's cut of the film that runs for 20 minutes longer than the original. Super Mario Bros. The Morton Jankel cut is now available for viewing on the Internet Archive, and doesn't just throw deleted scenes in there. Those scenes were found on an old VHS and were in terrible shape, so each had to be painstakingly restored by editor and artist Garrett Gilchrist. Some of them add some welcome context to existing scenes, while others are remnants of a more teen/adult version of the movie, like a club dancing scene. So that's pretty much it. Like, I don't know if we should link to it, but if you look at the Internet Archive, you can find it. I think that's interesting. I'm kind of hoping that if they do another, I think there was a recent release on Blu-ray. I almost wish they would do another one and get an official copy of it, or find a way to get it on there, because that'll just be something that maybe, when things settle down and Birdman is feeling better, this might be something that we should do as a watch-along commentary. It's been a while since we did one of those, and I'm kind of hoping that it's something that we can do. So let me see here. Our next story comes courtesy of... Let me see here. 1 second, sorry. Courtesy of Superhero Hype. And this says, Seth Rogen's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The reboot is coming in 2023. It It's been nearly a full year since Seth Rogen signed on to produce a new animated Ninja Turtles movie for Nickelodeon, but now the project finally has a release date. Variety is reporting that Turtles' next theatrical adventure will premiere August 11th, 2023. Rogen confirmed the news on Twitter on his Twitter account. His post also includes a photo of what looks like a page from a young Leonardo's notebook, complete with notes about mutations, references to other characters in the Turtles orbit, as well as a few doodles. Check it out for yourself below. It looks kind of neat. Looks like something I would have drawn in grade 6. Previously, Rogen explained that the new movie would put special emphasis on the characters' teenage personalities. The reboot will mark the first Ninja Turtles film to hit the big screen since Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows premiered in 2016. The movie will also utilize CG animation similar to 2007's TMNT. Rogen is producing the reboot through his Point Grey Pictures banner with his frequent collaborator Evan Goldberg and President James Weaver. Brendan O'Brien, who worked with Rogen on Neighbors and Neighbors 2 Sorority Rising, is writing the script. The movie will be directed by Jeff Rowe, who recently made a splash as the director of Netflix's The Mitchells vs. the Machines. Netflix. I'm pretty sure that was supposed to be theatrical originally. Are you expected to... blah, 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 blah. Okay. So, that's pretty neat. I've not been a fan of a lot of the animated Turtle stuff since, what was it, the 2000, like late 90s, early 2000s version? Was it 2003's version or something? I like that one. I'm just not a fan of some of how the weird deformed designs that appeared in the newer versions of the Turtles. But again, this, to each their own. And our final story here on this week's show is brought to us from comicbook.com, CBR.com. Sorry. This is a report. The Toxic Avenger reboot casts Elijah Wood as the main villain. Okay. According to the Illuminati, Wood will play Bob Garbager, whose description is as follows. Leonine hair and eerie plastic surgery. Evil head of the shady company GarbX. He has no regard for the well-being of anyone but himself and embarks on a murderous spree to become as powerful as Toxie. His ego is bolstered by his standing amongst the town officials, but in reality he lives in fear of the underworld gang he's indebted to. Okay. Legendary secured the rights to the franchise in 2018. I still can't believe that. And several months later, Macomb Blair was tapped to write and direct the project. In early 2021, Toxic Avengers original co-director Lloyd Kaufman, Uncle Lloyd, commented on Blair's script saying, "It's better than the original. He knows Troma better than I do. He's seen everything. He's seen the cartoon, he's seen the Halloween special, and he loves our movies like Troma's War and Terra Firma. He knows the Troma sense of humor, the combination of slapstick and satire with the environmental theme. You know what? This could end up being good." I mean, it is weird. Toxic Avenger, my history with it is... as a kid, I didn't know there was the live-action NC-17 hard R, crazy, over-the-top exploitation movie that was, I think, at one point the highest-grossing NC-17 film, which wasn't saying much, in that it grossed over several $1 million at the box office. Back at a time when you couldn't even dream of getting that for a low-budget, schlocky Troma film. It just sort of hit at the perfect time. Yeah, if I look it up, it made just under $1 million on a $500,000 budget, which was huge for them at the time. But I was a fan of the cartoon, which I still can't believe they were making kids' cartoons based on these hardcore, gory horror action thrillers that were coming out in the 80s. But there was the cartoon, there was all like the Burger King's toys and all that sort of stuff. I had all that. And then, as a teenager, you go to the video store and you're like, what's this? And you pick up Toxic Avenger and you start watching that and all the other Troma films. And I mean, sure, I just hope they're going to make it R-rated and not, really dumb it down or try to make it too kid-like, because the real charm will be if they can make it think like a gorier, like a much gorier, much more lowbrow version of like Deadpool, and then you've got the Toxic Avenger. So I mean, that'll be neat. Hopefully we see something out of this. Maybe it'll be a whole, look into the world of Troma. Maybe this version of Tromaville, maybe we'll see little hints and teases like a Sergeant Kabuki Man or something in the background. That would be kind of neat. And maybe homages to some of their previous stuff, because people forget there's a lot of famous people that got their start working with Lloyd Kaufman and Troma. He's sort of like he's like the Roger Corman of his generation. And that it's like, if you look at the early films, it's like, Samuel L. Jackson, Kevin Costner. I'm pretty sure that there's the James Gunn obviously got his career started working as a writer for I think it was Romeo and Juliet and a few other projects. There's Matt Stone and Trey Parker got their start where Cannibal the Musical, they distributed it through Troma, and they got their start. Like, they were taking risks on people that maybe weren't going to get anything from the mainstream at the time, and years and years and years later, they're now some of the biggest producers. They're even billionaires, right? Like, and they've made more money than Troma ever did, but Troma was there for them, so they're probably going to come back, and you're probably going to see people and cameos that you wouldn't expect. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. And that's going to do it for our brief 3-story news. There's probably more stuff happening this week, but it is an E3 week, so we wanted to keep this short and concise, but 3 stories that we found interesting that we just had to share. We're going to take a quick break so that Birdman can go into his review of Judas and the Black Messiah. And then we'll be back with the weird news.
This is a fair request, and I promise I will not judge any person only as a teenager, and that this is no more right than saying all teenagers are drunken dope addicts or glue sniffers.
Hey guys, what's going on? It is I, Mike the Birdman, returning from my recovery to give you yet another video, movie, or something review here on the show, as Alex has taken the reins while I recover, and I'm really glad that he's doing that today, because Birdman doesn't feel too good. However, I was able to lie in bed and watch this wonderful movie with my wife, which comes courtesy of Warner Brothers Home Entertainment, and I'm talking about Judas and the Black Messiah. Now, this is a movie that won some Oscars earlier this year. The guy whose name I can't quite pronounce, but he's the guy that plays Fred Hampton, won for Best Supporting Actor, I think, and I think this won for Best Song. So that's pretty kick-ass. So what Judas and the Black Messiah is about is rather timely, considering race relations and everything else that's happening in the world right now, post George Floyd, obviously 1 year later. This is about the Black Panther Party, and it's something that I knew about kind of growing up, but I didn't know a whole lot about the Black Panther Party, about them themselves. All I knew is they were a organization that worked with African Americans to better themselves, and the portrayals I'd always seen through media made them look like a terrorist organization. Turns out, no. I mean, yeah, they probably did some bad things. The movie covers some of that, but not really. Like, they're talking about their, like, breakfast program, how they wanted to start medical clinics, stuff like that. Yeah, there was some violence, there was some terrible things that happened, but the movie is about Fred Hampton, and he is the chairman of the Black Panther Party, who is trying to unite the different factions of Chicago to make things better, and sort of the self-determination of the black people. And I always thought that was really interesting while I was watching this. But the movie's not just about him. It's about a guy who turns FBI informant who infiltrates the Black Panther Party based upon a real guy. I think his name was Bill O'Neill. And it follows, the story goes from him becoming an FBI informant all the way to, well, the assassination of Fred Hampton. And that's incredibly fucked up when you look into it, because he was straight up assassinated, and the government basically had to pay out something like $1.5 million to the families, although they originally sued for like $47 million. Case took 12 years to resolve, and it's just ugly. However, though, the Black Panther Party still survives on today with the son of Fred Hampton as the chairman, which is pretty cool. So, the movie itself, it's about 2 hours long. It's something you really gotta pay attention towards. It's not something you can screw around with on your phone, although wonderful performances throughout. There is just a great vibe, how this feels like late 60s, early 70s, with the way the costuming, the music, the vibe, the feel of this movie as a whole. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I like how there's a lot more of these movies coming out. I know there was one I really enjoyed with Michael B. Jordan and Brie Larson last year, whose name completely escapes me right now. But it was a great movie post George Floyd. I think I reviewed it literally like a week or two after. So I always find it very interesting to learn about these things. And I think this is a movie that's important. I think it's a movie you should watch. If you're at all interested in race relations or history in the modern era, especially, racial history, I think this is something you should probably own. Is it something you'd show to kids? Probably not. Older ones, like in high school, yeah, probably. You could do that, just because there is a lot of swearing in this. Some of it kind of funny. Dig In being one of them. But Warner Brothers Home Entertainment did a fantastic job on this. Now, this is a fairly bare bones Blu-ray release. You only get 2 special features called Fred Hampton for the People and Unexpected Betrayal. Both special features are fairly short. Like, you're not getting a whole lot out of this, which is really unfortunate when you compare this to, say, Wonder Woman 1984, which had a whole shit ton of special features. A documentary would have been really nice on this, like a full, something. But anyway, yeah, that's how it is. So that's Judas and the Black Messiah, coming to us from Warner Bros. Home Entertainment. Is it worth it? I think so. I think it's something you should be checking out. Hey, it won some awards. It's got to be saying something. So that's Judas and the Black Messiah from Warner Bros. Home Entertainment.
Go crazy?
Don't mind if I do!
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria!
Time for the weird news here. And we have 3 stories, all of them curated by Birdman. And let's pull them up. First one is from Newsweek, and it says, this isn't the U.S., hashtag karma is real. Boaters harass family with pride flag moments before vessel catches fire. What? A boat caught fire with 3 people on board, oh God, after they allegedly circled another boat and harassed its passengers for displaying an LGBTQ pride flags. The boaters with the pride flags who rescued the injured from the water have described the incident as an act of karma. Twitter user at retro_ushi_, who identifies as trans and queer, told the story on social media and said, "These people harassed my family because we were flying gay pride flags in Moses Lake, Washington, by racing around us and shouting gay slurs. Then their boat literally blew up. Hashtag karma is real." They added, and just one more tidbit to really drive the karma in there. The driver literally shit his pants, and everyone saw when his shorts fell off in the water. A video of the incident posted on Monday has been seen by more than 4.7 million times and liked more than 1.2 million times on TikTok. The video sees the boat circling another displaying pride flags as a woman riding in the back of the former holds up her middle finger. The next shot sees smoke coming from the vessel as 3 passengers swim towards the TikTok user's boat. It then bursts into flames before the police arrive to put out the fire, though the vessel was already charred up to a crisp by the time they had arrived. The burnt boat can be seen floating past, and it's completely black inside. The Twitter user at Retro Ushi believes that the boat blew up because they were driving around us so roughly they either damaged their carburetor or took in water and stalled. Then fumes built up, and when they tried to speed away, the fumes ignited. The people in the boat were reportedly hurt and burned and were screaming for help as if they didn't just flip us off while trying to make waves and jumble us around. On TikTok, they got that said that they confirmed they got them out of the water immediately, adding, "We were nicer than they were." In response to someone who wanted to know how the conversation went once they were helped onto the boat, Retro Ushi said, "You mean the screaming and crying that victims do when they throw a rock at the wall and it bounces back?" She was hysterical. As well as reportedly screaming hysterically, the injured group did not thank their rescuers who called 911. Several TikTok users had other ideas of what they should have done. Like one comment that amassed more than 32,000 likes said, "Why help? Being the bigger person is overrated. I would have sailed away into the sunset." Okay, sure. I mean, yeah, karma's a bitch, right? Maybe spend less time hating everybody and more time fixing your boat. Our next story here is brought to us by Kotaku. It says $35,000 could win you this BTS Chicken McNugget. Now, this is from a few days ago. I believe it sold for more than that. I think it sold... Did it sell for like 100,000? Yeah, $99,997. So this was, again, this is a few days ago. Today, in a weird confluence of internet mega fandoms, there is a chicken nugget from the McDonald's BTS meals. BTS, that's a Korean K-pop group, I think, right? Something like that. I might be wrong. I'm pretty sure. Shaped like an Among Us crewmate. Up for bid on eBay for more than $34,000. That's it. That's all I got. That's all I got in the face of this overwhelming evidence that the human race are simultaneously the most beautiful and silliest creatures on the planet. So if you want the nugget for yourself, there was the bid, yada yada. I'll say this: it sold for $100,000. I'm hoping that it's somebody trying to fraud them and like make it make it like a gag, because who in the right mind would, like, I could see maybe as like a stunt some corporation purchases it for publicity and then they eat it on camera or something, and that's how they get publicity. But like, it's literally just a slightly deformed chicken nugget. So yeah, people have either way too much money on their hands that I could be using. I would like to, own a home, not a chicken nugget. But I do love seeing stupid stories like this. So that was just another quick one there. That's very simple. I mean, what was the old story? The lady that had like potato chips that looked like different people, or there was always like the toast that had Jesus's face burnt into it. I think that was, no wait, the one was the lady that had the potato chip collection that looked like presidents or something. Was it on Carson back in the day? And then they had, was it McMahon or somebody distracts her, and then the host ended up eating other potato chips, not from her stuff, and made all the crunching sounds like they were eating chips, and she freaked out and looked like she was going to have a panic attack. That, if you look it up, and look up, like, I think it's Potato Chip Collection Late Night or something, it's one of the funnier clips that's online from way back in the day. Well worth checking out. And this is the same sort of deal. It's like, sure, if you can make money off of it, great, but don't be a sucker. And our final story here, what is it? So here, this is Birdman found this. This is from The Hill. It says, hackers attack ferry service to Cape Cod, Nantucket, and Martha's Vineyard and demand ransom. I guess it's sort of weird. A fresh ransomware attack has taken down the online services of the Steamship Authority of Massachusetts. That's a hard word to say. A ferry service excuse me. A ferry service that shuttles passengers between Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, and the Outer Banks of Massachusetts. The Steamships Authority's website is out of commission. Local outlets report that due to the interruptions, passengers booking ferry tickets are likely to see delays. The Woods Hole, Martha Vineyards, and Nantucket Steamship Authority, wow, that's a long company, long organization, has been the target of a ransomware attack that is affecting operations. IT workers are investigating the attack alongside federal authorities to gauge the extent of the cyber attack. Why? It says here, this follows a massive ransomware assault on the Colonial Pipeline, the main oil artery that supplies about 45% of the East Coast gas stations. Okay, I understand it now. Resulting in the shortage that briefly drove prices up. The hacker group DarkSide took credit for the attack and was paid a ransom of $4.4 million from Colonial Pipeline executives. Meat and food production company JBS was the next major corporation to suffer a ransomware attack, saying it has occurred on Sunday. The company took immediate action, suspending all affected systems, notifying authorities, and activating the company's global network of IT professionals and third-party experts to resolve the situation. JBS's backup servers weren't affected, and the company is working with IT professionals to restore its North American and Australian systems that were affected in the attack. Due to the attack, the company wrote that it may experience some shipping delays. It anticipates to be operating at full capacity by this past Wednesday. The recent large-scale cyber attacks have prompted President Biden to issue new enhanced cybersecurity regulations to bolster online defenses and system reporting. So they're attacking the infrastructure. Tourism's one thing. They attacked the meat, though, of the food companies. That's something that Americans don't like. So, sort of weird, sort of keep your eye on it, because this is the kind of stuff it's like somebody's like poking a bear. There's only so many times they can do it before, it's too much. I'm going to see if we have one more weird, like a truly weird story to end on, and I'll see if I can pull up something myself. 17-year-old girl goes up against a bear to protect her dogs. That's not weird enough. Okay, here's one. This is from Japan Today. Osaka man charged with spitting in front of the same pickle shop for most of 2020. This is from Tokyo. There's an old adage in Japan that states the customer is God. So I guess it's the way customers always right. As a way to instill good customer service among staff. But the thing about gods is that they're really spiteful, and if you offend them in the slightest way, they tend to bring about eras of prolonged darkness and misery. Such was the case when a man in his 60s visited a pickle store in Sumino Ward, Osaka City, in the autumn of 2019. The pickle food shop owner and customer got into a dispute over a point card issued by the shopping arcade that the store was inside. The details of the point card problem weren't reported, but it was clearly enough to leave the customer feeling very unsatisfied. To express his displeasure, he would return to the store several times a month, utter curses such as "die," then spit on the walkway in front. This reportedly occurred from January to October of 2020. Spitting in public is frowned upon in Japan. I think it's pretty much frowned upon in most places. And doing so in places where people gather is a violation of Minor Crimes Act. But the pickle store decided to let it slide for the better part of a year, probably assuming he would tire himself out after long enough. However, as the months passed by, the COVID-19 problem grew increasingly serious in Japan. So last September, the shop owner confronted the man, but ended up being charged with assault. He explained the situation to the police and told them it was unhygienic with the growing COVID-19 problem, and the stress of repeatedly telling the man to stop was too much to bear. This resulted in an investigation of the serial spitter. On October 29th, Osaka Prefectural Police conducted a stakeout in front of the pickle shop and witnessed the same man stop there and spit twice on the ground. They swooped in and confronted the man on the spot, but he denied the charges, saying, "I spit, but only because it came out when I coughed." This resulted in further investigation and ultimately a criminal charge on May 31st, after it was deemed that the spitter's actions were highly malicious. Meanwhile, readers of the news were filled with a conflicting mix of awe and pity for the man. He must have been running out of spit by that point anyway, the quote said. There is some amazing dedication, such focus, what a waste. Punishments for violating the Minor Crimes Act include up to 30 days in jail or a fine between 1,000 and 10,000 yen. Hopefully that will be enough to make this man snap out of whatever disgruntled customer grudge spiral he appears to be stuck in. And who knows, maybe one day he'll look back on all this and laugh. Okay, sure. Over a points card dispute? Like, some people have some serious mental illness because if they can't get over this and if this is what they fixate on. But still, the pickle feud. So that's going to do it for our weird news. We're going to take a break right now and get into my final review here, which is, let me see, we talked about, this will be Necromunda Hired Gun. And then we'll be back after that with our closing thoughts and, sort of an update on what we're going to be doing during the E3 week.
Do you have any hobbies?
I collect spores, molds, and fungus.
Hold that thought. It's crapper time.
Necromunda Hired Gun is a game I was sent from Focus Home Interactive to check out on the PlayStation 4. It's a first-person shooter. It's also available on PS5, Xbox Series X, Xbox, PC, the whole shebang. And it's sort of a breath of fresh air when it comes to the FPS genre. I found that lately they've all gotten kind of stale, and they try to get into the almost simulator realm of Call of Duty, which is great, but if everybody's sort of copying that style, it gets kind of boring. So what we have here is something that feels a little more akin to something that would have come out maybe like early on in the PS3 generation, only with much higher quality visuals and a solid frame rate. I have seen a little rumblings here and there that people are saying that, oh, there were some frame rate issues they were experiencing. Now, it's probably that they maybe, have an old hard drive in their PlayStation 4, or they're playing it on like an Xbox One, like an original one or something, because I'm playing it on the PS5, even though it's playing the PS4 version. It's playing it, and I double-checked, that is the version installed. It's playing in backwards compatibility mode, but obviously it can maybe, brute force things. So it may be that I'm getting a slightly better experience, but it seemed like a rock solid 60 FPS without any, rock solid FPS is in frames per second on this FPS game. But it has a very, like I said, retro-y, arcadey first-person shooter feel to it. Think a little bit of Doom mixed with a little bit of like Duke Nukem, mixed with Painkiller and a lot of those other games that were from that era of, the mid-2000s when we finally went to HD with first-person shooters. Only now it's, much more cleaner, much more advanced visually experience that way. You also get a dog that you can send out to attack people, which is cool. You sort of paint their target by using your reticle to target who you want, and your dog will go. You can get upgrades, mutate the dog even further. You bash open crates to get loot out of it. So it grabs a little bit from everything. It's it's one of those things where it just pulls little elements from other popular games like Borderlands type thing, only it puts a bit of its own twist on it. It puts the sort of Warhammery twist on it to bring it into its own universe. You don't need to know anything about the lore or story of the franchise. You can just jump in and play as is. It's like I said, it's solid as far as frame rate on my PS5. Interestingly enough, it might not be the only time it's come out, but it's the first time I've experienced it. When I always like to go through the settings, to check for visuals, like if I have to change the display or the controls or yada yada. And in the display, there was an option to turn on. You can see the frame rate. I'm like, oh, so you didn't have to like guess or use third-party apps or record video and then analyze it there. It has a built-in tool that's available to the public. It's not like in a debug area or anything. So for fun, I just had it on playing, and there'd be like maybe once or twice where it dropped to 59 frames, but it was always at like 60 to 62 frames when it was like it would show like the rounding on it, and it seemed like it was pretty much locked, which is pretty sweet. It would have been interesting to see, like, I don't have where my my television is. It's not like 120 frames per second TV. It'd be interesting to see if perhaps like the PS5 version or the Series X version has the option for high frame rate. I'm not sure, as I didn't see that listed as a feature, but it seemed to be pretty well performing. I had some fun with it. There's some parts that are kind of hard, but again, it was I had that sort of rush of a retro feel where it felt like I was back in high school playing one of the many FPS games that were coming out in that 360 PS3 era. So for that alone, I say it's worth looking at. If you're a big FPS fan, check it out. If you're looking for something that's a little different than all of the realistic modern day sort of shooter style, but something that isn't like too cartoony, something that's a mature M-rated, rated 18 plus, 17 plus, depending on your region, old school Doom-esque shooting game, this is one for you.
Those magnificent bastards! Color me kooky, but something very odd is going on around here.
You're not allowed to talk anymore.
And that is going to do it for the show this week. I know earlier on we talked about, what was coming up in the week, but just sort of to reiterate, it's going to be a lot of E3, Summer Game Fest, Summer of Gaming coverage, pretty much every conference. As you heard earlier this weekend, we had a quick pre-show come out because there had been a couple conferences that came out that were outside of the regular E3 window, like the Japanese Indie Games Fest, the Guerrilla Collective showcase, as well as a little earlier the Dragon Quest showcase that showed off a bunch of games, and the one for Sonic's was it Sonic 35, Sonic's 30th, whatever the Sonic Central one where they showcased a bunch of stuff, and we wanted to sort of just give a recap of that because we're going to talk about it on the different news segments on certain weeks, but it just never came up, so it was nice just to have it all in one space. Now, as far as anything else going on, I did want to mention just a quick review. It's sort of not something that warranted being in its own longer slot, but sort of an update on some of the VR cover accessories that we received and we've covered. They've all been really well put together, but we did receive a box. It took a little bit to get here. I guess it bounced around customs a bit, but it's a little more sort of an addendum to the coverage we had before. There are some new products involved here. There's I received a facial interface and foam replacement set for the Oculus Quest 2. They call it the Thrill Seeker Edition. It's another color. I think it looks neat. Same with there is one called the Oasis Edition, and what they are is that they're just different color variations to really give your headset a unique styling. It's unique for you. They're of high quality, doesn't look cheap. It actually looks and feels good, and those are pretty fantastic. They're great if you're looking to just really make a unique statement from the sort of bland black and white aesthetic that comes generic with your headset. There was another item that was included that I thought is become a staple of mine, though. It's the Cool XG foam replacement set for the Oculus Quest 2. And if you're wondering, what does the Cool XG, mean? What does that do? What is that? Well, best way to put it is, when you get like a new pillow, or you can get certain memory foam things like neck pillows or toppers for your mattress. But it has like a cooling effect, if that makes any sense. It's like the cool gel. You'll see like some side, like I have a couple pillows that have it where it's like one side of the pillow has this cooling memory foam and the other side is just normal memory foam. So what that is it retails MSRP of about $30. If you buy it on their website now, I think it's going for 19 or 20. But what is it? It's a cool gel layer inside that it says provides temporary cooling sensation. It is. It's much cooler to the touch, and you're less likely to get sweaty at first. And it keeps your forehead a lot cooler. And I found it was a lot nicer to wear. It's got a PU leather surface on it. It does come with two different foams, a thicker one and thinner one. And I want to say that they only work on the VR cover facial interface. So it doesn't work on the original. It's connected via that Velcro-y, part that clips into the facial interface. So you do have to have the VR cover facial interface with it. So it's like going from the basic that comes with the Oculus Quest 2 that I just didn't find it that comfortable. You're moving to a more deluxe package when you get the VR cover facial interface, and then you get it's like going from that to the premium, which it just has a much more comfortable, even than the good comfortable VR cover facial foam. This is like a step above any I've ever used, and by far, I found that I started sweating way later than I normally would because it was such a cooling factor on my head. It was almost relaxing just to I have to admit that before I went to bed a few nights, I actually put it in and I was going to watch YouTube on TV, and I decided that because it was hot out and warm and I had my air conditioner on, I had a fan on in the room too, I went, you know what? I'm going to put the headset on because I want to cool down my forehead. So I actually watched YouTube from bed with this on, simply because I wanted to cool my face down a little bit before I went to bed, which is kind of neat. So I'll put links in the description for it for sure. Worth checking out. I guess it did end up turning into a full review, but that being said, I kind of hope that this is something they introduce for all their headset lineups, because if you have the Valve Index or something else, everybody deserves to have cooling memory foam on their face when they're using a headset, because I can't go back to using anything different. So anyway, that's it for that talk. But as far as what is coming up immediately on the program and on the show, you can look out in the next day or so for the beginning of our coverage. In fact, maybe even later today, depending on when the kickoff for the Summer Game Fest starts. You'll be seeing at least one or two prototype podcasts every day for the next 5 or 6 days. So keep tuned, subscribed, especially since there's going to be so much to watch and so much to catch up on. It might be nice just to listen into us for a quick recap on each of the showcases. So that's going to do it. I'll talk to everybody later.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at ThisWeekInGeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@ThisWeekInGeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listeners. listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.